Hey everybody, it's Josh. I'm at one of my regular spots that I come to film my videos. Not going outside today because it's a little too humid, and this is a spot by a river that I come and walk around just to be in nature and worship God. And over the past week and a half, we've had 2 people drown in the river here. Now, there's been a bunch more drown in the same area over the whole time I've lived in this area. I think they're finally going to fence it off and make sure nobody gets down there to swim and everything. But it's really... it's sad, and for most, it's frightening. I told my wife and I were talking the other night, and there was a case of rabies in the area where a fox and a cat were fighting, and turned out the fox was positive for rabies. So we told our youngest daughter just to be careful when she's going outside, or she rides her little scooter around the front driveway. And we told her, if there's any cats, don't go up and try to pet them, any stray cats, because there's rabies going around. Well, she started having an anxiety attack about that nonstop. She wouldn't go outside anymore. She wouldn't... barely even with me, she was looking around saying, where's the animals with the rabies? The rabies is going to get me. And I tried to explain to her, it's nothing to worry about. Do not worry about this, because it is something that you be cautious about, but you don't let it ruin your life. Now, I want to read to you a little bit of what Christ said when he was giving his Sermon on the Mount. This is from Matthew chapter 6. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And then he goes on to say, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Obviously, the Sermon on the Mount was one of the greatest ethical teachings of all times. Even the Buddhists, the Hindus, obviously the Muslims, and all kinds of other ethical students and ethical teachers look to the Sermon on the Mount as a guide, as one of the wisest teachings to ever be said. Now, obviously, there are people who don't believe that Christ actually lived, let alone taught this. Or if they believe he lived, they don't believe that he was God made flesh. But nobody can deny the wisdom of the Sermon on the Mount. And that was just one little piece of it. I've been working on a longer video for this. I just have been thinking about fear and anxiety quite a bit because my I told you about my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter is crippled by social anxiety sometimes. And I have been crippled by social anxiety. It's something that steals our joy, steals our peace. But we don't have to let it steal our peace. This is what the biggest thing I try to help non-believers or people seeking God understand. Once you have God in your heart, once you feel His love, you stop worrying about all the little irrational fears and anxieties. Obviously there's rational fears that we all need to have. You know, Christ mentions the birds and the animals and wildlife. They have rational fears. Now, yes, it does get irrational at times, but they have a short memory and they don't dwell on it. Humans, we have that longer memory, most of us. My memory is kind of hit or miss, but wild animals don't sit around worrying about, oh, as soon as I step out of my den or my nest, man, a hawk or a fox or a wolf or a bear, they're going to just eat me. And then they sit there making themselves sick and they can't even leave. Can't leave home. That sounds like what I was like and what too many I know were like. But then you look at domesticated animals. Domesticated animals have been influenced so much by people that they are sort of, our traits are rubbing off on them. My hound dog is terrified of thunderstorms or fireworks or any of this stuff. I don't know what goes through his mind, obviously, but it seems like he thinks the world's going to end, like we're all going to die. Like that is some sort of thunder, some sort of power coming from the heavens just to destroy us all. Now, I get it. You want to be in your den, in your house, in a safe place during a storm. Storms can be a rational thing to worry about, you know, but worry is the wrong word, I guess. A rational thing to prepare for. A rational thing to be on alert about. There's a big difference between being on alert and being cautious about something and compared to being irrationally worried. Thinking the worst is going to happen, it's just going to happen, we're all dead, we're all going to die. You know, this is just awful. I think that God drew me to this place today, not just because of the people drowning, which, you know, say a prayer for them, I know I will, but also because this is an area where one day I was walking and my wife called me up to go pick up the girls at school because she was stuck at work or something. And so I ended my walk short. I got out of there. Turns out that very same day, just a couple minutes later, there was a guy with a gun. He went down to a nearby neighborhood, straight in the path that I walked, and just took out a bunch of people. Some of them My wife's good friends it was their neighbors. They lived in that same little area. My wife and I used to live in that same little area when we first moved to the Raleigh area. And then you hear about the schools being the same thing happening. I don't know how much I can say on YouTube, so I don't need to say it. You all know what happens at schools sometimes with these sick, demented people. But I understand that people are terrified of this. You know, when it comes to your children's safety, of course you're terrified of things like that. There can be irrational fear, or there can be cautiousness. You can teach your kids to freak out and have anxiety attacks and think of nothing but that. Or you can teach them, listen, no matter what you do, no matter where you go, God is guiding you. I am certain that God made it to where I had to leave early that day, as I would have been walking right by this guy with a gun. I don't know if he would have shot me or not. Who knows? Or if I would have tried to stop him, seeing him just walking down the trail with a gun like that. I don't know. I hope I would have tried to stop him. Whether it cost me my life or not, it doesn't matter to me. Saving others is worth my life. But many of us get so anxious and so fearful that we just lock up. We can't take it any... We freeze up. We just get so scared. We start crying. We start whatever. And what good does that do us? What good does our anxiety and our fear do us? Again, I'm not saying don't be cautious. I'm not saying don't prepare for a disaster. But if you sit there and make that your life, then you are letting evil win, letting evil control you in a different way. You get that irrational fear, and it just takes control. So please ask yourself, what good is your anxiety? What good is that fear? I think I have some people going up for to investigate the drowning and stuff here, but if I need to get out of the way, I will. Tragedies are going to happen. Trauma is going to happen. It's just going to happen. There's no way around it. There is no way to get past evil in this world. You're going to confront it at some point. Please do not let it control you. Do not let anyone steal your joy. Now, there's different ways of coping with it. I've heard this before from a Christian psychologist. He says when he has a fear or an anxiety, he writes down what he thinks, why it scares him, and what he thinks is going to be the result of this. And he asks himself, is this rational or irrational? Is this something I should be spending my time worrying about? Or being cautious about even? Or is it something that my mind is creating and falling victim to? Now, it's been a long time since I've heard that guy, so I hope I'm quoting him right, but I would suggest that to everyone here. This is before you have a solid relationship with God. Because once you have that, your anxiety and fear fade away. He lifts that from you. The fear of death is gone, so most fear in life is gone. There's still going to be, you're still a human. You're still going to have some of these things to a certain degree, but it won't control your life anymore. Your life is too precious. There is too much beauty in it to be overwhelmed by evil, by fear, by anxiety. I'm not saying go and being a hedonist either. That's just another way of falling victim to evil. You delight in God. You delight in the love of Christ. And you allow it to fill your soul and your heart. You allow it to bring true happiness. For the first time, I've been happy before. I've been peaceful before. I've been joyful plenty of times. But I've never had true peace and joy like when God saved me. And ironically, it was in the worst time of my life. I try to stress to people, if I can find peace and joy in a time of suffering and trauma and tragedy, then you can find it anytime in your life. God can take the worst times in your life and make them more than bearable, make you thankful for them. Make you thankful for even your suffering, because that is just a lesson He is teaching you. Just an obstacle to overcome. Hopefully the last one, until you see that speck of light in the darkness. You see that hope for the first time, and you walk towards it. It is the ultimate hope. And without God, the ultimate hope, it's going to be a process to get over anxiety and fear. It is. You're never going to get to a point where you are when you have God's love and grace in your life. But it's still a process. You should still work on it. But this is why I always stress too, the most important thing is a relationship with God. Not through church, not through anything. A personal, intimate relationship with God. He will take your hand, take the crushing weight off your chest and shoulders, and He will show you what heaven is really like right here on earth. All right, everybody. That's all I have for today. God bless you. Have a good one.